Hello, my name is Christian Rada. I'm the Director of Marriage, Family Formation, and Respect Life Education for the Diocese of Brooklyn. And I wish to share with you some thoughts on religious education using blended learning. First off, what is blended learning? Blended learning is an institutional methodology that leverages technology to provide a more personalized approach to learning, giving students and families control over the time, place, path, and pace of their learning. The Clayton Christensen Institution, one of the most leading thought leaders on blended learning, defines it as a formal educational program in which the student learns in part through online learning and partly in a supervised brick and mortar location away from home. However, with COVID-19, the Diocese of Brooklyn is suggesting that parishes find alternative means to the traditional brick and mortar educational platform or educational means. And blended learning is one way that we can actually provide religious education away from the traditional classroom model. So the first is that with blended learning, there are several different types of learning models. So there's the rotation model, the flex model, the a la carte model, and the enriched virtual model. But for the purpose of this presentation, I will be focusing on the rotation model, especially using the flipped classroom approach. So first and foremost, with a blended learning model with religious education, the DRE and catechist checks in on the student and family during a post-lesson pre-lesson meeting. Now, the catechist introduces the lesson using some approved technological means, such as Teams, GoToMeeting, Google Meets, etc., in order to check up on the family. Then, after this initial meeting, at home, students access the content and submit the assignments on an online platform by a particular date. Then, the catechist reviews and supports the family post-lesson. And the catechist introduces the next lesson, and what's important is that it repeats the same process over again. An introduction into the lesson, a checkup with the family. The student at home is provided the content using an online platform. And then after a period of time determined by the catechist and the DRE, the catechist reviews and supports the family post-lesson. Now, let's say, for example, a program does not have a means of an online platform where students can submit their material, their assignments. So there needs to be a little bit more extra legwork. So before the catechetical year begins, the DRE and catechist must provide a schedule breaking down each lesson for each meeting. Then the catechist checks in on the family and the student. They introduce the lesson using either GoToMeeting, Teams, Google Meets, some way in order to check in on the family. Then at home, the student has access to the content using an ebook and submits the assignment to the DRE or catechist by a certain date. And the DRE and the catechist will determine how is that work submitted, either through taking a picture of their assignment and submitting it via email to the DRE or to the catechist, can be used as an example. Then the catechist reviews and supports the student post-lesson, and then the catechist introduces the next lesson that's on the schedule in that meeting. And then, like I said before, the process repeats itself again. Now, this may seem like a lot, but what I believe is that we could actually do a lot with a little. And I've provided with you a flipped sample lesson. So what does the catechist or the DRE does in these family meetings before, during, and after? So there are several things that a catechist can do before a meeting. So they could assign a video for the family to view. They could assign reading from their chapter books, from their ebooks. Very importantly, they invite the family to pray together and then ask the students to be ready to recall what they've learned and to share with the class. Now, during the initial meeting, the catechist and the DRE can actually begin with a checkup. And how does that checkup initially look? So, first and foremost, the catechist or DRE can ask, how is the person doing? How's the student doing? How's the family doing? And if the relationship allows, the catechist and DRE needs to be empathetic and sensitive to the immediate needs of the family, and to recognize the strength and the resilience of each family. Now, note that while we as religious educators may not be able to provide or support these challenges directly, we must always be aware of their challenges and to help them assure that there is some sort of support by and being responsive to those challenges. So, in other words, we need to be attentive to the needs and the challenges that each family has, and see how can we best approach and address these issues, even though we might not be able to solve each challenge, but by being aware that these are the challenges that the families are facing, we can then reevaluate our approach to religious education given to each family. So during that, now, part of that approach, we could also ask, how is the child doing? Is there anything that the family wishes to share with you about how they're adjusting to all these changes? What did we offer as religious educators that helped the family this particular week or this particular session? And then following up with these questions as, what can we offer? What worked and what didn't work with this religious education lessons? And then we can dedicate time to games or exercise or a project that reinforces the content at home. And then finally, we ended with reflection, prayer, and discussion with the whole family. And then asking the family, especially the parents and guardians, what are some comments, questions, concerns that they have with regards to the lesson or with regards to the religious education process as a whole. So we're directing all of our efforts not just to the student, but to the family as a whole. And then afterwards, after the meeting ends, what does the DRE and catechist do? Well, they evaluate the family meeting and then assess the student's work either by looking at their online platform where they submit their forms, or how have they sent it without the digital platform if it's not provided. Then there's a reflection on the experience as a process in missionary discipleship and social change. So, how has the catechist been able to process all that has taken place and seen, am I walking with this family on this journey, one on one with Christ? That the families are reassured that they're not alone in this catechetical process, that the church is there to assist them in their in the way that they learn about the faith, but also about how are they living their daily life in a community. And then last but not least, it's reviewing, revising, and then finally repeating. Always taking the time to see, what can I do better? What have I done that works? And then what are some of the ways that I can be a better missionary disciple? So last but not least, I wish to share with you some tips and things to consider as you move into a blended learning model approach. First, make sure you talk with your pastors and catechists before implementing a flipped classroom model or blended model approach. Different parishes have different philosophies on giving homework in the religious education program. Very importantly, communicate expectations clearly and frequently to parents before implementing. Sending an email or a letter explaining what is a flipped classroom is and why are you choosing it to try that, why you're choosing to try this, and what is the expectation from them. Having everyone on the same page will help move things smoothly and successfully as possible. Another thing is to consider wisely and deliberately the amount of work that is sent at home. Send a manageable amount that can be understood without a lot of scaffolding or context. And then, if possible, send home rich media that will engage the whole family. Experiences with video, audio, art, and other media will enhance the learning. I hope these tips and things to consider and the blended learning model approach that I provided with you gives you a skeleton to your religious education program, which you will add the meat to that skeleton. Thank you very much for your time, and may God bless you.